Hey guys, it's Attilee. Today is Oscars Sunday, and I figured what better way to celebrate the Oscars, as well as a return to form for Attilee and animation, than to sort of take a deep dive into those two main categories for animation at the Oscars, those being Best Animated Feature and Best Animated Short. For each category, we've got 5 nominees, and so we'll be taking a look at each of them, and at the end I'll be sharing my thoughts on who I think is most likely to win, as well as who's my personal favorite, because sometimes those don't always align. Starting off, let's begin with Best Animated Shorts. In no particular order, we'll begin with Piper by Pixar, which sort of ran right before Finding Dory, if you saw that, which Finding Dory, interestingly enough, is not nominated for an Oscar, but we'll get to more on that later. Piper is a cute, perfect Pixar film. It's technically flawless with great renderings of the ocean as well as the birds that focus on for this feature about Piper birds. If you've ever gone to the beach, you've seen them sort of poke their little beaks into the sand to get food. It's exactly what this is about, and it's just incredibly charming, very saccharine, very fun, all about learning new things and sort of spreading your wings, so to speak. Interestingly enough, Pixar has only won in this category once before, as far as I'm aware, with the short film For the Birds. So maybe this year it'll be For the Birds again for Pixar. Our second short is Pearl by Google Spotlight Stories and Evil Eye Pictures. It is a VR short, oddly enough, so completely 360 degrees, and it comes across for me like a mix of a music video and a family-friendly commercial. It sort of centers on a young girl and her father, as their entire lives revolve around this car. First living in it as a home, but then later sort of the adventures that the girl goes on as she begins her own musical adventures. It's a great song setting that sets the whole theme for the story, and really interesting visuals. The team that worked on this also worked on Feast, which won last year's Best Short. It has very similar stylings to that in how everything is rendered and the stylistic choices there. Really cute, again, pretty saccharine, and enjoyable to watch. Pear Cider and Cigarettes by Massive Swerve Studios and Passion Picture Animation is the third short nominated here. It is the longest of all of the shorts, clocking in at 35 minutes, and by and far the most adult, with sex, drugs, and language to match. It's a really interesting autobiographical look at a childhood friend and sort of the 25-year relationship between the narrator and his friend, Techno, and sort of the self-destructive nature of his friend and the consequences that occur therein. I found this one really compelling. If you've ever seen a Gorillaz music video, it's very Gorillaz in style, which makes sense. The team behind that has also worked on Gorillaz music videos as well, but also it had inherent styles that I've seen in Motor City and other Titmouse productions. I'm not sure if there's some overlap there as well. Really dark, really gritty, graphic novel in nature, which makes sense given that this story has also been touched on by the creator in graphic novel form as well. Blind Vaisha by the National Film Board of Canada is our fourth short. It's interesting and fairy tale-like in style. It's about a young girl who is blind in a sense, in that she can see out of one eye everything in the future and out of the other everything in the past, which keeps her permanently blind to the present. It's sort of inspired by linoleum cut printmaking as well as medieval art, which again, dark, makes sense. And it's just interesting, the conclusion, despite the fact that it felt very fairy tale-like in a sense, very mythical, the end conclusion is sort of rested upon the audience to decide. Borrowed Time by Quorum Films is our fifth and final short nominated here for this year's Oscars. It's from veteran Pixar animators, and it has an emotional impact like only Pixar animators can provide. It features a sheriff as he returns to a location that has haunted him for decades, and we get to see that impact beautifully rendered, as well as the incredibly gorgeous Western scenery that is completely enveloping him. All 5 of these shorts for me were just perfect. I loved viewing each of them, and they represent, I think, the wealth of story and visualization that animation can bring to the table with some great creativity. For me, I think what's most likely to win is Piper. It seems like birds are a winning theme for Pixar in their shorts, and this one, based off of the technically perfect rendering of the oceanscape, as well as just the inherent charm of the little bird trying to figure out his way as he learns what it means to be a Piper bird, is just too good to resist. But my personal favorite actually was Pear Cider and Cigarettes. I don't know if it's because I'm a Pear Cider fan, or just something about Techno's story and the way it was told through the sort of graphic novel style just really struck a nerve with me. It's a compelling 35-minute short, and I totally think it's worth anyone's viewing. At the very least, the music that is used in it is phenomenal. do try and watch that if you have the chance. So next, let's focus on our Best Animated Features nominees. What's interesting to note here is that this award has been given out for 15 years, and Pixar has scooped that award up 9 separate times. But this year, in 2017 Oscars, Finding Dory, which was eligible, is not part of the final 5. It did not make this year's shortlist, so this year's winner, at least for me, feels a whole lot less predictable than previous years. So diving in deep into these films and sort of their merits is going to be, I think, worth your time if you're trying to make a little cheat sheet or have some bets with some friends on this year's Oscars. So starting off first, again in no particular order, we've got Moana from Walt Disney. It's a CGI film that centers on a young aspiring wayfinder, Moana, as she tries to save her island alongside the demigod Maui. For me, this film was perfect. It had some great music elements to it, perfect musical elements really, and it's so rich in adventure and mythos that I just found myself completely swept away into the Polynesian world. To me, that adventure and mythos feels like callbacks to classics like Aladdin and Hercules, perfect Disney movies in my opinion, which makes sense. The team behind Moana also worked on both of those movies as well. What's interesting to note here as well, a little Oscars fun trivia for you, is that Lin-Manuel Miranda worked on Moana and also has a nomination in the Oscars for Best Song. If Lin-Manuel Miranda is to win that category for Best Song, he will become the youngest and fastest person to ever win an EGOT, an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. So I don't know about you, regardless of how you feel about Moana, I'm kind of like fingers crossed for that. That's really cool and something that doesn't happen very often. Next up is Zootopia, also by Walt Disney. It is a CGI animated feature centering on the prejudice that predators and preys encounter with each other in this sort of anthropomorphic world. Officer Judy Hopps works on the toughest police force in the animal kingdom and finds help for her first big case with an unlikely partner, a sly fox. Zootopia for me was a fun feature with a great social message at the heart of it that's relevant for kids and adults alike. It's an instant Disney classic, and it's got a whole lot of lead up coming in from other award shows leading up to the Oscars. Our third feature is Kubo and the Two Strings by Laika and Focus Features. It is a stop motion feature that revolves around Kubo, a young storyteller with magical powers and a mysteriously stolen eye. An eye theme here in the animated category, who knew? Kubo is joined by his comrades Monkey and Beetle as he works to subdue evil forces. This is the 4th feature and the 4th nomination for Laika, and I think it's so well deserved. I loved this feature, and it's an incredible example of how far the studio has grown both in talent and just a wealth of rich stories to tell through this impactful medium of stop motion. A fun Oscars fact for you here for Kubo and the Two Strings, it's also nominated for Best Visual Effects, and it's the 2nd stop motion picture to receive this distinction following The Nightmare Before Christmas. So who knows, we might have a stop motion feature get best visuals here as well. Ma vie de courgette, or in English, My Life as a Zucchini by G-Kids, is our 4th nominated feature. It's a French stop motion feature that's about a young boy who, following the accidental death of his alcoholic mother, must adjust to his new life in an orphanage, working to find friendship and love along the way, facing many challenges. What's interesting to note here is despite the very bleak nature of the storyline, character design and set design for this entire feature I found to be incredibly saccharine and just beautiful in its saturation of color and texture. It's a incredible juxtaposition and use of visuals like I haven't seen before, and I really found that to be a great spectacle to watch. Really interesting, as well as the voice work in it. It was incredible. The children's performances that are at the heart of this film, at least in French, it hasn't come out in English as far as I'm aware yet, were breathtaking. I found those to be incredibly compelling to listen to and to follow along with, and it's a really unique film. And finally, we've got The Red Turtle by Studio Ghibli and Sony Pictures Classics, a French-Japanese film that it sounds like it's going to have a serious language barrier, but fret not, there is absolutely no dialogue for this feature. It's a hand-drawn animation with, oddly enough, a CGI red turtle, featuring a protagonist, a young man who's marooned at sea and lives and grows alongside the island he washes up on. He finds an enemy and something more from the red turtle who swims just offshore. For all of the previous features that we've talked about, an inherent simplicity in the visuals in the red turtle that I found just completely draw me into this world in a way that none of the other features could manage. Not that those did a poor job, but that this feature sort of enveloped me in story in a way that I think only really Studio Ghibli films have done before. The watercolor detailing and just the simplicity of it all, and as well as the silence that's present quite frequently throughout this feature, revels in quietness in a way that none of the other features ever can manage. Kubo, I think, comes close in certain regards, and Ma Vie de Clochette also reaches that capacity in certain regards, but the Disney features, I think, in no way can ever reach the quiet simplicity that the Red Turtle manages. I find that very interesting that 4 of our nominees are very visually impactful, very detail expressive, and just awe-inspiring in their visual capabilities, whereas the Red Turtle, in certain regards, almost seems muted, but at that same time, the wealth of story that comes without a sound is breathtaking and totally worth a view. For me, what's likely to win for the Best Animated Feature is Zootopia. Leading into this award circuit, they've just swept up so many significant awards. However, my favorite, and also a strong contender to also pick this up, heavy fight right now going on, is Kubo and the Two Strings. One of the biggest predictors for a lot of Oscar award winners are the BAFTAs, and Kubo and the Two Strings sprung an upset on Zootopia, winning a BAFTA for Best Animated Feature. So I'm saying it's a hotly contended category right now between those two. If you're curious about my thoughts on the rest of the Oscar nominees, feel free to follow me along on Twitter. I'm at Attilee Record. I'll be live tweeting throughout the Oscars as much as I possibly can on all the other categories, but I'll primarily be looking really closely at those animated feature categories. So until next time, you guys, I'm Attilee, and I cannot wait to talk to you about more animation. See ya!